All right, it's Friday, November 20th. Let's do our lecture on Bash scripting. I'm going to share my screen. Go here. And so I'm going to show you a few things about Bash. Going to show you how to kind of think about it, and then give you some couple examples, real world examples, and go through that hashing problem from Encoding in Crypto that I told you, I promised you we'd take another look at on Friday. Okay, so sometimes we hear this term like scripting, and it's like, what's the difference between that and programming? And it's like scripting is some lesser thing, and it's really not. It's really, the same programmatic thinking that is required of you in Python, is available to you in Bash. And we've mostly been using Bash to enter commands into the prompt. But now we're going to, have Bash take in input from a whole file. And we have a lot of the same programmatic things that we have in Python. We also have in Bash, not all of them, but a good portion of them that's necessary to actually, do some logic and make our lives easier for us. So what are we going to talk about today? Or at least what am I going to show you? I'm going to show you variables. We need to have variables in any programming language. So I'm going to show you how to make variables in Bash, how to use them, how to assign them, how to read them. We're going to have reading files, right? Bash is, the way we can interact with the shell. And at the end of the day, Linux is all files. So, we need to know how to read files. We'll talk about the conditionals and loops, right, that are necessary to give our program some logic. Ifs, thens, etc. And we will very briefly take a look at the syntax of functions and where they're used. I'll show you a real big Bash script that I use in real life. So, you get a feel for, how these things are used and what they do. So what I want to say is you guys already kind of know a lot of how to think about this. It's going to be kind of a heavy syntax day. So we're kind of going to compare what we already know with Python and what we, to what is in Bash. So in Bash, we create variables with the equal sign. Same kind of idea as Python. But the thing that's important to know here when we are assigning variables is we have no spaces in between. So variable equals whatever value you want to be. Very important, no space separation. Whenever you want to access a variable, you have to do it with the $sign. So you would say $sign variable, and that will give you, whatever is stored inside that variable. You can also do $sign and curly braces around the variable. That's not necessary, but it does make your scripts easier to read. If you see a $sign curly brace, you're like, okay, I know that that's a variable. But again, it's not necessary. It just kind of makes it easier to read. That's why I didn't even put it there. If you want access to the command line arguments that your script took in, right? When we were doing Python, we would use the import sys and use the sysargv property, right? So that way we can get access to the command line arguments. In Bash, it's a bit simpler. They automatically get assigned, and they get assigned to $sign integer. So the first argument would be $1, the second $2, the 57th would be $57. And the reference to the script itself would be $0. So very similar to how we reference things in Python, where you get sysargv and you get that nice list that's 0 indexed. It's a very similar sort of data structure when we're talking with Bash. So inside your Bash script, you can refer to the command line arguments with $sign integer. Cool. That brings us to, there's a whole lot of special variables that Bash will assign when you start a Bash script. Right? For example, a $sign hash is, that will give you a number of how many arguments came into the script, right? That's like the length of sys.argv, right? $sign at will give you space separated all of the values of the arguments. So if you wanted to loop through them, might be useful there. $sign star will give you all the arguments double quoted, and we'll kind of go into the difference between single and double quotes. I do think it's best if you do some experimentation yourself and see, hey, these single and double quotes, what do they do? How is it different? Because it is a very common thing in troubleshooting your Bash scripts. And you see there's a couple of other ones. You have $sign ifs, which is setting the internal field separator. How are you separating the things in a file? Is it by spaces or new lines? How do you want to separate things? You have $user, right? What if you want to customize your script so that it says, hello user, whatever, today is X and Y, right? So you can have the $user, right? That'll have the variable of who, or the value of who is currently executing the script. Same idea with $hostname. You want to know what's the host name of the script, of the machine that the script is running on. So we have a whole bunch of special variables. You don't need to memorize them. I think like $pound and $@ are pretty common ones. But you could see the rest of them there, and any others you can Google. I think the big thing that kind of take away is when you see a $, you're probably talking about some kind of variable or something like that. Okay. Yes. So let's talk about how to actually read a file in Bash. It looks a little funky, I won't lie, but you'll kind of get used to the syntax. With Python, we had that open method, that open function that could open up a file, and then you would write a for loop, for line in, read the lines, and do some stuff inside there. In Bash, it's a little bit different. You're going to use a while loop to read a file in general. We do have for loops, we'll talk about them, but when we're reading files, we'll usually use a while. And so we have the first line right there of while read line, right? We're using the read command, right? That's a command on the command line. So while read line is being set as a variable. And then we have do and done, and inside that do and done is where you can put your command for what you want to do for every iteration of that loop. And what are we doing? We're just echoing out whatever that line is. And then through file redirection at the end, we are redirecting that file as input into the while loop. So syntax, like I said, is a little funny. You gotta kind of get used to it. But I also do think it's kind of clear what it's doing. We have a while loop. What are we doing with that while loop? We're reading some variable called lines. What are we doing inside for each iteration? We're echoing the line. And then where's all of this stuff coming? We're redirecting the file name into that while loop with the less than character. Cool. So let's talk about how we can write some conditional logic, right? This is pretty important for any kind of programming. And again, we're going to have those if and else keywords. Now, the thing that's a little different is when you are writing your conditional, you're going to use 2 square brackets to wrap around it. And when you also have your conditional, you'll have this then and phi syntax. So it's if just backwards. That's how you're closing out your if block. And so you have if, some condition wrapped in square brackets. Then what do you want to do if it's affirmative? You have your command there. Else, what do you want to do if it's falsy? And then phi to end yourself out of the condition. You'll notice I have a -e for that's kind of a different comparison operator than what you're used to, right? We're used to like bang equals or double equals or greater than or less than. We have those same things in Bash, but they're a little bit different. So we have some comparison operators. Let's look at them, at least a few of them. You may have seen some of this if you recall in Foundations. I think sometimes the Python stuff wouldn't render properly, and you might, instead of seeing like an equal sign, see a -equal sort of thing. If you didn't see it, don't worry about it. But instead of using those symbols that we're used to, like bang equals, greater than, less than, we have these comparison operators instead. So if you want to compare if something's equal to each other, you use that -equal flag. We have a few other ones too, like if the string is null, right? If there's nothing inside the string, if the string is not null. And since Linux is everything is a file, of course we're gonna have specific operators to compare and test files. So here's a list of some operators for testing files. Like, hey, maybe you want your script to check if a file exists before it does something. You can write that logic. If the name of some file -e. So if that file exists, do something. If it does not exist, do something else. Maybe tell the user the file doesn't exist, error. sort of stuff like that. If you're starting to able to think of how you can use these things in a script, then you're on the right track. You don't need to memorize these file test operators. These will always be Googleable. I just want you to be aware that these are the operators you would use to do file tests, and they're available to you in Bash scripting. Okay. We could talk about for loops. They're pretty simple, right? For, variable, in, list. And when I say list here, it's anything we can kind of loop over. So in general, that might be the result of a command. It might be, just a few things like space separated, like I could put X, Y, and Z, and I'll show you an example of that. Or it can be like a sequence of things. You can use the sequence command to give you a sequence of things, or you could use curly braces to give you a sequence of things. And I'll show you. We're gonna do a for loop when we go through the that hashing problem. Okay. Functions. You are, at least for this class, not going to be required to write any kind of functions in Bash. But I do want to show you what they look like, and I'll show you some scripts I have that have functions in them. In Python, in the top, we have that def keyword, and you give it your function, and whatever you want to call it, and parentheses and colon, and then write your function code inside there. In Bash, it's a little bit simpler. You just declare your function name, put parentheses, and open it up with curly braces, and your Bash code will live in there. Functions, again, they're going to be useful when you want to repeat. You want to make your code more modular and repeatable. You want to make it more readable. But for us, we're never going to be writing too many big scripts that are going to need functions, at least for now. I just want you to be aware that you can do it. Okay, so let's do a quick summary before we go into some demo. Come back and talk to the point and at the end as well. Why is that summary here? Let me go fix that. Summary is, we're programming in Bash. We have almost all of the same things that we can do in Python, but some things are going to be easier. So if you're interacting with a whole bunch of files, if you want to run a whole bunch of Bash commands, generally a Bash script is going to be the easier way to solve your problem. If you have to do anything a bit more abstract, something like sending an email or parsing some strings or using more advanced data structures like dictionaries, in that case, if I'm starting to think I have a problem where I need to do that, that's where I'll probably use Python. So let's take a look at some real world Bash scripts, some that are actually useful to me. Cool. You can see my desktop right now, right? Thumbs. Yeah. Okay, cool. So can someone tell me what, if they can read this, hopefully it's large enough, what I'm doing with this command?
You're using SSH to remotely log into a machine with the host name blog metzer dev and under the username bitnami. And since you're not using the standard key name, you're using that the I flag to specify the key.
Yep. So I'm using SSH, using an SSH key to log in as this user bitnami on blog mattmincer.dev, right? I'm just going to log into SSH into my blog and show you some of the scripts that live there. Cool. So cd stack, let's encrypt. So the ones I want to show you are these scripts in my let's encrypt directory. So I have a blog that lives on this host. I always wanted HTTPS on it, so I'm using this let's encrypt framework. Framework might not be the word. Let's encrypt. I'll link it. I'll show you the technology I'm using. It's this free nonprofit certificate authority. So I can get a certificate and renew it so that my website has HTTPS. Okay. CD into scripts, and the ones I want to show you, first I'll show you a nice simple one that I wrote because every 90 days I need to renew the certificate. That sounds like I don't want to log into my thing and remember every 90 days, right? So I wrote a script that will do that for me and then just put it on a cron job and it runs, every 3 months. So it's this renew certificate shell .sh. You'll notice that for shell scripts, we usually append the .sh. Not necessary, right? As you know, it's Linux, who cares? But just so that most people know, the users know, is a shell script. So let's take a look at what it is. It's a nice short one, right? This is useful to me. So here, I'm setting the interpreter as we're using the bash shell. What am I doing? Sudo use this script. So run this script that lives here, control script.sh. And this script, obviously takes in some commands. And what I'm doing here is stopping my web server, my Nginx web server. Okay, I run another command. You notice that it's just on the next line. So it's literally like I'm just typing them in. I'm running this script. Bitnami, let's encrypt Lego, give it some flags, right? This is just the flags it needs. You'll notice that there's a flag, renew --days 90. Okay, cool, renew my certificate. And then here's the final part of my script, start my web server again. Okay, really easy script. Just want you to see that some scripts are really short, really easy, just for doing something, automating something for you that you don't want to do yourself. And then you can attach it to a cron job and run it. So let's get to a little more challenging problem and work on the one I promised you I would do. We'll do this one together. So it's this corned beef and blank one that I wanted to do. I know there's a corned beef and blank too. I'll leave that one for you guys after you see how to do this one in bash. And so just so that we all recall what we needed to do with this problem is, we were given a hash, an MD5 hash, and we were told that it was from this string, fs cabbage, wait, that's not right, underscore xxx, but we don't know what the xxx is. It can be any number from 000 to 999. And so we can manually do this for sure, right? I can manually type in, echo dash, I could just grab this, copy dash n, right? I could do this into MD5 sum. Whoops. Echo dash n. What am I? I typed something wrong. Is it? Oh, is it because this is not in quotes? Just double check this work. Right, echo dash n into MD5 sum. What? MD5 sum. Right. I could do this manually for all, 1,000 entries and compare, but that sounds like a silly way to do it. So obviously we can write a script that will do this for us. So let's put on our thinking caps and figure out how we can programmatically write this script. So what are the things I need to do? What programming things are we thinking?
A for loop for
the
numbers.
Oh yeah, for loop for the numbers. Let's start writing this stuff down. Where's all this crap? All right, this is always satisfying. Let's cache.shell. Let's write down these great ideas that you guys have. We will for loop over a sequence from 000 to 999. Right, I added some stuff in there that you did not say, but I think that that's what we want to do. Okay, what do we want to do? Imagine we have each number 000. What do you want me to do with 000?
Hash
Put
it.
in-
Okay, you want me to just hash 000?
No,
Oh.
put it in that.
check it
string.
against the known hash.
And it's the end of the string first.
Yeah, put it in that string.
I like that. Let's make this string, right? Let's make the first iteration or 000 fs cabbage. Wait, that's not right. 000. So let's say make the string to test. Sounds good to me. Okay, we got the string to test. Wait, you know what? Let's even save it as a variable. Save to variable called, what do you want to call it? The naming stuff is hard, right?
Flag.
Hey, I like it. Called flag. Okay. All right. Now I have my variable called flag. It is equal to, on this 0th iteration, fs cabbage. Wait, that's not right. 000. What do you want me to do with this information?
Hash it.
Okay. Take MD5 hash of the flag variable. And I'm going to save it as variable called hash. Okay. What next? I've got the hash of that variable.
Create a variable for the, we know what the hash is that it's supposed to be. So just create a variable for what the hash is supposed to be.
Okay. So let's see, actual, we'll call it have variable. Maybe I'll put this outside the loop so I don't have to make it every time, but
Yeah.
Called hash, compare hash, equal to, whatever this is, blah, 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 copy, paste. Okay. We're rapidly approaching a solution. What do you want me to do now?
Compare flag or the hash, compare hash to compare hash.
Okay.
Awkward to say.
Yeah, tongue tied. So we're going to use comparison and a, if else situation here, right? So if comparison, and if it's equal, if I'm going to even use dash EQ because we know that that's going to be equal, print flag, else do nothing. I don't know. We don't even need to do anything. Okay. How do we feel about this? I should say echo flag, but
I think we have to let the program know that the hash values can be maybe 0 through 9, A to E, A to F.
So for this case, in this case, unless you're talking about, you might be talking about corned beef too. In that case, we have hex characters inside here. This
Oh,
one,
yeah, right.
the only characters are 0 to 9. So a smaller amount we have to sequence through. All right, so I think that this is a good enough bit of pseudo code to get us where we want to go. I'm just going to write it below. Okay. For num in, and I'm going to use these parentheses 000. Is it dot dot or dot dot dot? I think dot 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 dot. I'll find out. For number in this sequence. Okay. And we know we have to add a do and a done. I like to do these things at the very beginning. As I'm writing the script, I'm like, okay, I have a for loop. Let me put this do and done. I'll write the rest of the stuff inside. It makes it a little bit easier for me as I'm writing it because I forget sometimes to write done, and bash is a little particular. Okay. Make string to test the variable called flag. Make string to test, save to variable called flag. Okay. So we're going to assign a variable. Let's say flag equals, right? Notice I have to, no spaces. I'm going to use double quotes. That's cabbage. Wait, that's not right. FS, oops. Cabbage. Wait, that's not right. Underscore. And then we want to put the number in here. So this is where we put $num. And like I said, I like to put curly braces around when I put a variable as well. This is specifically so I know that it's a variable. It makes it easier for me to read. You don't have to put the curly braces around the variable. One thing I do want to point out to you is the difference between single and double quotes. And here's one example of where I would use double quotes. I use double quotes because I want to put a variable inside here. I use single quotes if I want exactly what's inside the single quotes. That's the biggest difference. So because I want to put in, I don't want it to say $num here. I want it to say what the actual number is. Let's actually echo $flag so you can see what I'm talking about. Show, don't tell, right? Show, don't tell. Okay, so let's just have an idea what this is going to do. We're going to loop through the numbers from 000 to 999. We're going to make some variable called this, and we're going to echo the flag, right? So let's just see if we're at least getting that correct. Did I not save this? Okay. Cool. So not exactly what I wanted. I think it's because I have 3 dots here. It's supposed to be 3. Let me fix that. I think this sequence is supposed to take 2 dots, not 3 dots. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Cool. So we're almost there. I'm missing a curly brace at the end. But the other thing I want to show you is if I don't have, let's fix this first. Let me add that curly brace. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Go into insert mode, please. There we go. Cool. So first, let me show you. Let me get that working. Cool. So we're able to get every string, right? But let me show you what it looks like if we only have single quotes. I encourage you to try this yourself. And even if you don't, I'm sure you'll end up in a situation where this is the bug you have and you need to fix. So here I use single quotes. What did I type something wrong? Oh. I think it's just interpreting this wrong. Let's do it like that.
It's messing up on that's.
On what?
On that's, wait, that's, because there's a single quote.
Oh. You see how annoying this is. Okay, so let me put it like that just so that you can see the example I'm trying to show you. You see how it literally just writes exactly that string $num. It's not interpreting that as a variable and putting it in there. It's the difference between single and double quotes. Promise you, it's not too bad of a headache once you know, oh, I should pay attention to my quotes, especially with bash scripts. But it's something to be aware of. Okay, so I have the flag variable, right? I'm at this point. What do you want me to do?
Do you want to fix that so that you don't get the wrong MD5?
Yeah. I would have been troubleshooting that for a while. Thank you. Okay, what do I want to do besides that now?
Hash it.
Hash it.
it. Resume.
All right. So I'm going to save that to a variable called hash equals. And I'm going to show you something else you may or may not have seen before. So there's a couple of ways we can loop over things. Sometimes we just loop over a sequence. Sometimes you want to loop over the output of a command. And in that case, we'll use a subshell. So here I'll use a subshell. It's with $, parentheses. $, parentheses says, take whatever is in here, run that as a command, whatever the output is. Instead of putting it to standard out, put it in as this variable. Right. So I'm going to just echo, and the flag, that should be $flag. And we'll put this into MD5 sum. And we'll leave it like that because I want to show you what this looks like. I think that's good. Let's echo the hash. Echo $hash. Again, I like to do this. Cool. Oops, that's not what I want to do. I wanted to do that. Okay, we're getting all the hashes. Right, we're getting all the hashes, rapidly approaching a solution. Is anyone particularly observant and sees one thing that's going to be a small hiccup?
The dash?
It's putting in the FS as well.
So not the FS, right? But the hash we're going to compare to, if you realize MD5, someone gives you this space dash, I think it gives you. I forget exactly how many characters it gives you out like this. I only want this first part though, right? I only want to compare this to that. So, again, this is why I always do baby steps, run your script again, see, what you need to do. So we can just like, oops, that's not what I want. We can pipe this to cut dash D on spaces, dash F1. Is that going to be getting me what I want? No, use awk instead. Or what it show you the way I actually did it. I Googled MD5 sum flag for no space dash. This is literally what I Googled because I just wondered if there was a flag that I can put in there that will just give me the hash instead. I didn't find that. I found someone else's answers on Stack Overflow that suggest using awk. I think I found someone else that suggested using a subshell to get that and echo it out. Couple of different solutions here. This guy's using cut dash D dash F1. Why didn't mine work like that?
Maybe the difference between the space rather than the 0 after D.
Oh. Was that there the whole time? Awkward, huh? Hey, all right. So I was right the first time. I just need to trust myself. Cool. So now I've massaged my hash so I can compare it to the hash to compare. Let's do that, right? Because it said there, compare hash, right? You want me to do that. So I'll say all caps, doesn't have to be, compare hash equals. I'm going to use single quotes. I'm going to grab this right here. I'm going to paste it in. Paste. Okay. All right. Rapidly. Almost there. I have the hash to compare. I have the hash that I know what it is. We need to just write that conditional logic now. So again, we need an if, a then, a phi. And like I said, I write these things out first, just because it makes it easier so I don't forget what I need to do. And then inside the if, I know I need to put my logic inside these square braces. Okay. So what do I want to do? Compare the hash to the compare hash. So if $hash dash equals $compare hash. This should work. What do we want to do? Well, go into the then block and echo the flag, right? That'll give us what this flag should be. I feel like we're good. Does anyone see any errors in what I've got here?
Not an error, but you're still echoing hash. It's sure we got all of those hashes in your output.
Yeah, that's gross, huh? Let's get rid of that. All right, let's try it, see what happens. Try it, don't hold shift, see what happens. Oops, gosh. Conditional then, syntax error, let's fix it. Line 14, 15, if, this looks, oops. This looks off. What's off about this? I did say I like to put these in braces like this. But I don't think that that's the problem.
Do you need to have an else even if it's blank?
No, I don't think I need to have an else. I got my phi, got my done, got my if. Let me just try double equals for a second. I don't think that that's the answer, but. Hey, not doing what I want. Oops, I didn't want me to run you again. To go.
It has to do with how you're constructing the flag string.
Oh yeah, you see something? Cabbage dash wait.
You're missing one of the braces at the end.
Oh, thank you. Good catch. Yes. Yes. I need that brace. See, I shouldn't have gotten rid of the echoes of all the flags. Would have caught it earlier. All right. Now let's get it to work. Cool. And then you get your flag to work. So let's look at this code one more time. I will share this with you guys if you'd like.
Why do you
But,
need the double bracket after the if again?
Let's go back and change it to dash equals. Should be dash equals. That works as well. Well, that does not do what I want it to do. This comparison is not comparing the way I want. I'd have to look into because I'm not exactly sure why it's not. So I usually just use dash equals, dash EQ. But it must be interpreting this and comparing in a different way. There must be some difference between this double equals and the dash EQ with the string comparison. That works, but that doesn't. All right, let me look into it. I'll get back to you. Because I did think that should work as well. No, it's not. I gotta look into value too great for base. Let's take a look.
Try it without the double brackets.
Without?
Yeah.
All right, let's try it. Without two squares, you mean? Or without with a single
Yeah,
squares?
Yeah, I'm curious about that.
I usually see with double. I don't think, pretty sure you need double, but I'm never against trying. This is a different error now.
Yeah, okay.
So do you need
It's
doubles?
saying you need integer only with a single one, so it's interesting.
Yeah. So I'm gonna look into why this dash equal comparison between these two strings is different than just a double equals, because I was pretty certain that this should do the same type of comparison. But that does bring me to bash is a little weird sometimes, and you could really go down a bunch of different like you could do a lot of stuff with bash. So that's why I want to show you what a larger bash script might look like, so you have some idea of what programmatic bash looks like. So again, I'll just go back here, grab my terminal. We're still here, and I got my generate certificate script. This one's a bit longer. I only want to show you a small part of it. But you see things, it's just like any other kind of script, some variables or values I'm setting in bash, right? Some variables I'm setting, right? What's the binary, right? The certificates directory. And then here are a bunch of short functions, right? Functions that I'm going to use, like this function, root. What do you think it does?
Check if you're root.
Yeah, it just returns a Boolean if I'm root or not, right? So all it does is run, right? Just so we can take a look. We have a conditional. I do notice this says single. I'll go into that. You notice I have double quotes here because I want to interpolate some stuff. I've got a subshell here because I see $ parens. And so what am I running? I'm running ID, piping that to sed. And it says if that value does not equal 0. So I'm imagining it's looking at the user ID. If the value is not 0, false. If it is 0, true, right? Some basic stuff like, is Apache installed? What does it do? Checking to see if this is there, right? The -d file, d flag. Let's go back we can look at what file flag that was, because I always forget.
Directory.
Is a directory. So is this directory there? Blah, blah, blah. Right. Usually this bash scripts are going to be a bit smaller than things you would find in Python or other languages. But, I want you to be familiar because at some point in your cyber career, you're going to be using them, either editing someone else's or writing your own short one, that does something for you. So any questions before we get off into the labs where you guys start, actually getting your hands dirty and writing a couple bash scripts?
What was that line that you had to make contact to the shell again?
What do you mean, the hash bang?
Yeah, the SSH, and then you did -I.
The SSH-I. So if you look up what SSH and the -I flag are, you will find out. I want to give you guys the answers to, what flag am I using for certain things? Because those are easy Googleable questions. Give me questions after you Google something and you're like, what does this mean? Because I can write what you said and put it into Google. Other questions? Not that I'm against questions. I love questions. I want you guys to start to feel comfortable to ask me the second level question of, I'm not sure how to do this. I already Googled it. These are the things I found. I don't understand.
I had a question about the code.
Sure.
Do we always have to put the variable inside curly brackets?
You do not. I do that but for myself so that I see that it's a variable. You do not.
Okay.
You'll also notice in Bash, and a lot of people have their own styles. You can do things a few different ways. I don't want to say there's a better way to do things in Bash. I'm just saying this is the way I like to do them. I put all my variables in capitals. You don't have to do that. Put all my variables when I'm using them in $ curly braces. You do not have to do that. The biggest takeaways, and I think for debugging, is paying attention to the quote characters. Right? Like you could see, you have to be careful. You may have to escape them. Understanding that having double quotes, Bash will interpret the variables in there. Whereas if you have single quotes, it will use exactly what you put inside there. Cool.
If you were going to do the 00 to 999 loop in Python, what would be the simplest way to do it? Because I don't know, I was having trouble with that.
The simplest way, you could do 3-4 loops.
Okay, yeah, just back to back 3-4 loops.
Yeah, you're looping over the same thing 3 times, right? Getting the zeros, then the next 0, then the next 0, 0 to 9. That's at least how I did the #2 one in Python. I used 3-4 loops. It's not that
Cool.
bad. If you're a developer, you might think I'm gross. I don't care. Okay, we'll stop that recording.